It's really great to be here in this sort of very strange times, no? Down here in Magaluf and in Mallorca, and I was in Ibiza a couple of days ago. Very, very strange, very peculiar, very sad in some ways. Yeah.
Yeah, you met a friend of mine, Martin, of the very tall variety, like yourself. Martin Makepeace, who does a bit of stuff on here with me as well. And me and Martin, we talk obviously quite a lot about our islands. Martin's lived in Ibiza more than 30 years, like me, here in Mallorca, and it's been, can I say, it's just been tough for the last 18 months or so since the pandemic started here, well, not only just here, across the world. From a point of view as an ambassador to what you do, how tough has it been working in your particular line of work?
Well, first, I'm not sure I agree with you that Martin is particularly tall. I see him as being a normal sort of height.
You did go over him. You're right.
but no, more to the point. It's been really tough for everybody, hasn't it? I mean, I had a trip planned out here, because part of my job is to go around, to go to parts of Spain where we've got consulates, where we've got Brits living, where Brits visiting. So I was planning I've been around to most of those parts of Spain in the few months I've been in the job, and then was planning to come out in the third week of March last year, and it wasn't a very good week to plan to come out, because of course the shutdown was a week earlier.
Right.
And since then we've had 40 months of really, really difficult times, and I've seen just how tough and tight the restrictions have been and still are here in the Balearics. So, like everybody, we back at the embassy and all our consulates, we went almost overnight. I mean, it took about 3 days actually, to go from everybody in the office to almost everybody at home. I mean, it was just like everybody else. It was remarkable, really tough. Doing all the sorts of things everybody else was doing, like everybody trying to work out where they could find somewhere in their house actually to sort of set up a laptop and whether it worked and whether the Wi-Fi was good enough, and getting used to all the things everybody else was getting used to, and then trying to stay safe, and that's what we were.
And you are based normally in Madrid, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, and so normally you would... you represent Spain and Andorra, is that it? Because I've spoken to Lloyd before, and Lloyd has a bit of Catalonia and Aragon added on as well to his remit as well. So it's just Spain.
Yeah. So I am accredited to Spain as Her Majesty's Ambassador to Spain, and as non-resident ambassador to Andorra. So in normal times, I would go to Andorra several times a year to see the government, to talk to our honorary consul, to see what things are going on for Brits, what business there is between the government. But I do that from based in Madrid. So that would be a sort of visit, on a visit basis. But of course, just like everything else, I haven't done a great deal of that over the last year because visits haven't been possible. And so I'm just hoping that things will... I think the things will start to get a little bit better. We'll be able to move about a bit more, and I think things are beginning to look up. Yeah, we're not there yet, but things are definitely beginning to look up as we see the vaccination plans now accelerating across Spain. More and more people getting vaccinated, and of course in the UK, vaccination program's going really well as well. So that's very positive. Not there yet. We need to have a bit more patience, but things are looking up.
And you are, I don't know if you know, but you are pictured on the front page of the Ultima, you are talked about on the front page of the Ultima, the Spanish newspaper, but on the front page of the Mallorca Daily Bulletin this morning, you do say, Ambassador says Balearic's in a good position. You had a meeting with the Balearic President, Francina Armengol, yesterday.
That's right.
I'm led to believe. How was the meeting? How do you see us preparing for getting ready for more? May 17th is the date that everybody is looking towards for this traffic light system, and how we're going to sort of move forward with international travel. How do you see the Balearics right now?
Well, I mean, just for the context, for the last 14 months, we have been obviously through a range of different situations of tight lockdowns and then a bit loosening up and then tightening up again. And all through that time, we've been in very close contact. I've been speaking to the President on a sort of fairly regular basis during that time when there have been changes that we've needed to talk about and share information about. So this meeting was part of that ongoing sort of set of discussions, because one of the difficult things of all of this, because there have been so many changes, have been to make sure we're at least informed about what's going on. Quite often, and today actually it's a bit like that, we can't say exactly what's going to happen, but at least we can know what we know and know what we don't know, and then be clear that when we're going to be able to tell people what the score is. So the 17th of May is the date that the British government has said is the earliest date at which it will begin to, could begin to allow non-essential travel overseas tourism. Yeah. So we are waiting to see what the final decision will be from the government on that, and we expect that decision to be announced sometime in the first fortnight of May. So in the next few days, almost, we're going to be hearing as to what whether it will be opening up from the 17th of May. And precisely what the conditions are. But we can talk a bit about that if you like.
Yeah, I mean, I saw something that you were quoted as saying a few days ago. Although the quality of the data in the Balearics are an important factor to be taken into account, there are many parameters. No decisions have been made yet about who will be in each category.
Yeah. Well, what we have said is that in line with the advice from the Global Travel Task Force, this was a group that was set up to advise the government on how to be opening up. We will be applying a traffic light system to countries. There'll be red, amber, yellow, or green.
Yeah.
And they and at the moment we don't know precisely what country will be what colour. That's all being worked through. As we speak these days, the experts are working through all of that.
And sorry to just butt in there, but is that based on your infection rates in your particular country, how your vaccination rates are going, and how you're dealing with different variants, and how your
exactly. There is
NHS or not your whatever it is can cope with what's being happening?
Exactly. There's a series of different criteria there, and that will include exactly those things: the level of the pandemic. How the vaccination program is going, particularly the new variants, the variants of concern, as we call them, because the key thing here is that everybody wants to open up. I mean, the system is, and I can see it here. Looking out the window of your studio. I mean, I guess it's not normally as empty as this.
No,
and so there's an awful lot of pent up wish to get going, but we really want to do so safely, and that's the absolutely critical thing. So, particularly because we still have only limited information about precisely how the variants of concern, the new variants, interact with the vaccines and the degree of protection that those vaccines give to both infection and to transmission, we're taking a cautious approach, and one which obviously puts safety first. So those are the series of parameters. Another parameter, obviously, is whether an area has the capacity to monitor those variants of concern. And my comments there that you're talking about there, Richie, were because the Balearic Islands themselves, as it happens, are a part of Spain which have a very high capacity, a particularly specific specialist capacity for genome sequencing, which that's why I said this stands them in good stead. Good. At the moment, though, what the British government position is we're looking at that traffic light system per country, on a country-by-country basis.
And will the islands, do you think, be separate from mainland Spain? Because this was a bit of a problem last year.
Yeah. Well, obviously, that's the very clear ask that I've had from the Balearic government, completely understandable, and as I've said, it's I understand the basis on which they're asking it, all those factors we've talked about. The very, very tight restrictions that have been in place for some time here in the Balearics have really had a good impact in terms of getting the level of the virus down. The level of the pandemic is one of the lowest in Spain. And what I said about the capacity to monitor those new variants, those are factors which have been shared with me. Obviously, I'm sharing back with my government in London, and they're being looked at. But I can't say more than that at this stage. I just don't know.
And Dream on Dreamer. I'm with Hugh Elliott. He is the British Ambassador to Spain and Andorra. We're talking obviously about how we can, or how the islands can get themselves back to work. Now, do we think that PCR tests will be part of this start of opening up and everything else? Do we think, because I think the worry for a lot of people right now is the cost of these things, and also I think we've just talked off air actually, can people cope on, or can we cope as an island based on the numbers that will come through, sort of getting these PCR tests done? Is that?
Yeah. Well, so the first answer is yes. I think PCR tests will continue to form part of the mix for a while to come. Maybe not just PCR. Maybe there'll be the other tests because we're talking about what the rules will be for Spain, what the rules may be specifically for the Balearic Islands, and obviously what the rules will be from the UK for going back to the UK. So as always, it's a bit complicated. There's quite a lot of rules to navigate here. But yes, I think PCRs will be part of the equation because they are still the most accurate and reliable indication of whether you've got the virus or not. And you're completely right. The cost is an issue, and it's something that we're looking at as a government to see what things we can do to try to get the cost of tests down, because we recognise that it's a big disincentive. No, if you're a family of 4 or 5 and you're going to have to do several PCR tests each to go on holiday, well, that for many people that just makes it impossible to come on holiday.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, to give you an example, I was for a Spanish friend of mine and for his daughter who's actually in university in Hull, and she was coming back here after her studies, and I was quoted anything between 150 and 225 pounds for one test. You know, and if you times that by 4 for a family of 4 who have to do it going and then coming back again, you know, you're talking in some circumstances early season or late season the cost of a holiday here. Yeah. You know, it is. But I do know, because I've done a little bit more investigation into it, there are a couple of companies or a couple of agencies that are looking at, there's a company called Randox who are quite a famous company back in the UK. I think they're one of the biggest testing centres, and they've brought the price down for international travellers to £60, which makes a little bit, I mean, it's still quite expensive, I personally think, but it is better.
That is, well, £60 is certainly better than £200, isn't it?
Definitely.
I mean, nobody wants to pay extra, but in order to be able to go on holiday, if that's the price of staying safe and making sure that, you know, your friends, your family, and all the people you know when you go back home are safe, because it's not about ourselves so much. It's partly about ourselves. It's partly about the people we're with. We want to keep them safe. So I think that it's interesting what you say. I've seen prices come down in Spain. I mean, obviously living here, I'm a little bit more attuned to what the prices are in Spain. That sort of price of £60, you know, if you're looking at PCRs in Madrid, you see places were around €100, 110, 80. I was even hearing about one place that was €75. So maybe what we're seeing is, I'm just talking off the top of my head here, but maybe we're just seeing the market operating here as the demand may go up, maybe the price will go down.
I think that's inevitable, and I'm actually surprised that so far that an airline or a tour operator hasn't actually included it in the cost of what they're offering to their clients, because I'm sure they can get it back in other ways.
Yes, and I know that some hotels are thinking about that. Some are even sort of applying that in some of their establishments, and I think they're already thinking about that. I mean, I was on a plane, an Air Europa plane, the other week when I had to go on a visit to the Canary Islands, and you get a voucher that says you get a discount on your PCR if you go to one of these clinics from presenting the voucher from Air Europa. So I think that sort of thing, there will be ways in which there'll be big efforts made to try to get the price of the PCRs down.
And it's important, as you just said, that we keep the infection rate down. Obviously, what we don't need is the infection rate to rise, and then we go from, say, green to amber and amber to red, and then all of a sudden we're back to square one again.
Well, that is what we really want to avoid at all costs, and that's what sits behind this cautious approach to reopening. Because we saw a bit of that last year, and it was incredibly frustrating. It was frustrating for travellers, but it was very, very, very damaging for business, because business needs to be able to plan. And the last thing is almost worse than having to stay closed, is having to open and close and open and close for many businesses. So certainly that's what they were telling me. So we do want to make sure that if the degree to which we open up, we don't then have to shut down again. Of course, it may be possible. You can't rule anything out. One thing we've learned about this whole thing over the last 40 months is it's not entirely predictable. But that's what we want to avoid. We want to be on an opening path. And the vaccination programs and the success of the vaccination programs mean that I'm quite optimistic that progressive opening will be possible, as long as we remain cautious, as long as we keep it.
And this has been a total learning curve for everybody, really, hasn't it?
Well, it certainly has for me.
No, I know, and I think we're a lot more. Obviously, we've learned a lot of those last 14 months, and I think the way that it's now being looked after. If you remember that we were first looking at ventilators for lungs, and that sort of seems to have taken. Although in India, obviously, I know now that is quite a key thing. It seems that the first wave, that's what happened. Then people started to learn about how to deal with it and everything else, and learn about how to move this on. And obviously we're in the situation, I think, in Europe now that vaccination is the way forward, without a doubt.
Yeah, well, you're quite right. We're all on quite a learning curve here, and different medical treatments and facilities are needed at different stages of illness for different levels of severity of patients, of course, as we've all been learning. I think that what's really remarkable, Richie, is that it's 14 months on from a new disease appearing and going around the world like wildfire. We're actually deep into a mass vaccination campaign. I mean, that's an extraordinary achievement. I think what the researchers, what the pharmaceutical companies, and what, frankly, governments and all the volunteers who've been helping these programs have achieved and are achieving, on top of course, everything that the healthcare professionals were doing to save lives and protect lives and look after people and continue to do. I think it's quite an extraordinary achievement that we're there, and certainly I, for one, am very grateful for that effort.
Can I ask you a question? This is coming from one of the listeners, actually. If you wouldn't mind, has the vaccination programme been discussed about all the British yacht crews working on the boats here? Been discussed, and is the UK advising Spain in assisting with this? I'm not quite sure how that this would be really helpful for the yachting community. So basically, we're talking about getting. I think this is a similar situation to people that work in the tourist industry and people that work in hotels. I know quite a lot of the big hotel chains in the Caribbean, for instance, have vaccinated their own people. I think this is a question where can they be pushed towards the top, and I think the government have been reticent to do that.
Well, the simple answer to that is that each country is following its own series of prioritizations. The UK has been very clear about what our sequence of prioritizations are, with a fundamental objective of protecting the most vulnerable as quickly as possible. And your listeners will know about all of that. And in Spain, they've had a similar program, albeit perhaps with a few more tweaks, where they've been vaccinating maybe some specific groups before others. But I have not seen anywhere that the Spanish government is proposing to prioritise the tourism sector or aspects of the tourism sector. I completely understand from the point of view if you're running that sort of program, if that's your business rather, and then you want to try to get yourself in a place where you can get that business going without putting your customers at risk.
Yeah,
that's completely normal. But I think the key thing here is to work with the system and to go with the system and to make sure. And I've been hearing that the Spanish here in the Balearics, if there is anybody who fears they may not be caught may not get a vaccination at the right time, that the Balearic government have put a number out there you can call. And make sure that you will get your vaccine when your turn comes. So I'm afraid it's a question of being a bit patient for a bit longer.
Okay.
I suppose it helps if you're 85 and running a yacht.
Well, funny enough, I have rung that number, and the lady told me I was too young, it doesn't happen that often, I'll be perfectly honest. I was very glad she did. And I think it's going online. I think the system will move on to an online system where you can book your appointment. It's a bit like the TIE cards, very similar to that, where you would be able to book your own appointment and go and have your jab. Listen, Ambassador, I know you're very busy. I know you need to get off. I'm getting nods in the background, you see. So thank you very much for visiting us. I really appreciate you coming in. Next time you're here, please drop in and see us. It's always good to catch up. And as I say, keep on doing the work you're doing, helping us, I'm sure.
Thanks very much, Richie. I look forward to coming back, and I hope that when I'm back that also that we're in a much better situation, and there'll be much more activity outside your window.
Oh, thank you very much. Take care. Thank you.